Hey, what's up guys? It's the Nightwing Way of Life Esports coming at you guys with another League of Legends video, here to talk about the LEC Spring Split 2020 Playoffs Part 1, Mad Lions upsetting G2, Fnatic clapping Origen, and Rogue actually defeating Misfits. Now, let's be honest here, the only playoff match I even predicted correctly was Fnatic beating Origen. Because you'd think that G2 could take down Mad Lions, but in upset fashion, Mad Lions take down G2. I think the Rogue versus Misfits series was actually pretty good, all things considered, for Misfits, because it showed what they actually had to improve on in order to actually be a lot better. And let's go into these series right now. So, taking off in the very first playoff match, you had G2 playing up against Mad Lions. Now, going into this match, most people thought that G2 has the easier matchup. They picked Mad Lions, and this matchup specifically went the distance. And starting in game one, you already got this feel that Mad Lions were definitely in it, and they're not going to just roll over and die all of a sudden. So basically, during the drafting phase, G2 obviously choose to take Maokai top, Lee Sin jungle, Lucian mid, Syndra and Set bot lane. Mad Lions take Aatrox, Gragas, Nautilus, Kalista, and Leona. Now, obviously, Mad Lions really love the Kalista. They were the ones that beat G2 on it before, so I think that letting that through the draft phase was actually a big problem. I think that once you look at how Mad Lions were winning these real key games that they needed to win in order to get to the playoffs, Kalista and Leona were involved in that, as well as the Aatrox. Now, as the match played out, basically, it was a decent game, all things considered. Lucian mid is not that bad, so obviously it's not going to be something that I'm really truly mad at. I think that for what G2 are actually trying to do with their composition, you know, they are play super aggressive early game and they want to obviously get a lead, and you obviously have Mad Lions who are trying that scaling comp. Kalista does fall off later on in the game, but it's okay. So basically, the matchup goes pretty similar to how you think these bot lanes would actually go. Few skirmishes here or there. And then later on, they're just kind of just farming, basically just lane by lane things. Mad Lions are getting a little bit of more gold advantages from their laning assignments that they're actually doing. And then you have Origen beating down Wonder. Obviously, he's playing Maokai. There's nothing special about Maokai. And Shadow tries to obviously gank Lucian. And then Perks, playing Lucian as well as he always does, he evades the gank. Now, it's not really much going on after this. I don't think picking Maokai really makes that big of a difference personally. But later on, Jankos and Perks do a dive onto Humanoid, and then he ends up dying. He was playing the mid Nautilus, basically taking a page out of Doinby's book. And I was like, okay, dude, I see what you're doing here. You're trying to be flexible. That's perfectly fine if you're trying to be flexible, because it definitely makes things a lot more better later on during the split if you can play different things. Now, with that being said, I do think that the Mad Lions composition works better past 20 minutes than G2's does. I think you have the early game champions like these early aggressive carries like Syndra, Lucian, and Lee Sin, which need to get ahead early. Otherwise, it's a real uphill battle for G2's composition. And then later on during the match, you basically have them taking a bad fight toward the dragon area, where they obviously start losing it. And then you had Humanoid dying first, but then Mad Lions are actually outfighting G2, and then kill Wonder. Then Mickey is all alone on the set support. He tries to outplay the 1v2, but then he ends up dying. And yeah, Mad Lions are ahead in the game. Now, this was one of the more closer games of the series. I really thought G2 still had a chance to win this game, but poor lane assignments really did hurt them. Later on, they shut down Perks, and then later on, Humanoid, Karzi, and Leona die, and G2, you're probably thinking like, okay, they're back in the game, this is where it's gonna really come up. But no, Mad Lions are actually still winning team fights. They do have the better composition. And then much later on during the game, the Aatrox is too big, the Gragas is too big, obviously Karzi is too big, and Humanoid just completely keeps setting up the play to the Nautilus. With Nautilus, since G2's composition is super squishy on like things like Syndra and things like Lucian, it's really easy for them to obviously get CC'd because they are playing low mobility champions. And, you know, it's very imperative that you must lock these carries down, because if you let Syndra and Lucian get free firing hits in team fights, you will obviously lose. Mad Lions upset G2. in game 1. It was decently close, but at a certain point there was an 8,000 gold lead. Mad Lions got a Baron buff, and then it is Mad Lions upsetting G2, a team that G2 picked. G2 picked this team, and they lost game 1. Now, I did say that it would be 3-1 in my pre-prediction if you go back and watch that, because this is how these kind of series go. You have the favorite predicted, and then that team that nobody really thinks is going to win wins that game 1. That's how I kind of thought the series was going to go anyway when it first initially started. But then you have game 2. G2 don't take the Maokai this time. They take Set, Jarvan, Rumble, Syndra, and Rakan. Mad Lions take the Maokai themselves with Kindred, Origen, Aphelios, Tahm Kench. You know they love the Aphelios, Tahm Kench. It gives Carzzy a comfortable pick, and it also gives Kaiser something where he can roam around and impact the map. This game had the same similar feel that the first game had, where I don't really know why they actually chose to run the Maokai. I don't think Maokai's a good pick right now, and I definitely don't think it's really beneficial for a lot of these teams to actually run Maokai overall in general, but I think that when you really look at how Mad Lions effectively used it this game, it really wasn't useful. And then later on, it's literally all G2, all has kills. It's 5-0, 4,000 gold lead. And they actually played better in this game, and rightfully so. It looked decently close, but then Wunder, I don't think he had the most spectacular series, but he did play better as the series evolved. And I think that a lot of people were really on caps about, you know, them switching back with Perks, because they objectively agree, like with me, that Perks is the better ADC. But obviously, he wasn't really playing ADCs during the match. He played Syndra this game, and for game 1, I just named it. I forgot the champion he actually played, but during the series, he showed he can not just play ADCs. You don't always have to have an ADC to win, but it does real for a more consistent damage. Around 60 minutes in, they kill the bot lane. Perks is having a feel-good day on this Rumble, and yeah, toward the latter end of the game, G2 win a team fight. They are 11,000 gold ahead. Caps evades the Origen and definitely doesn't die. You know, Perks played absolutely incredible this series overall. I thought he looked great every single game. And then later on, Wunder's just in the base, just basically 1v2ing. I love Set. He's one of my favorite top laners in general. You guys will definitely be seeing me play more of him in my LOL highlights. I love Set. I love what he does. And yes, G2 make that comeback, and they don't go to basically, you know, down 0-2 in this series. Wunder absolutely had a clinic on the Set. Moving into game 3, this is one of the more lopsided games of the series, actually, if you watch it, because this is the game where you're absolutely thinking, okay, Mad Lions definitely have the better composition. You have G2s with Aatrox, Elise, Sylas, Aphelios, and Thresh. You have Mad Lions with Nico top. That has been seen in quite some time since last year. Lee Sin, Lucian mid. Humanoid taking a page out of Perks' book. And then Carzzy's on his patented, really great Ezreal. You have Kaiser on his Set support. Something that Hylissang definitely started a trend with in EU. Early on, Mad Lions get first blood 2 minutes in. And then later on, Jankos cops in the bot lane. And then they obviously almost kill the Set, but then they obviously don't. Wunder is getting dove literally 3 minutes in. Aatrox tries to outplay the 1v3 and actually almost gets the trade back, but then he doesn't. It's a 500 gold lead for Mad Lions. They're definitely playing a lot more cohesive and a lot more apparent than G2, obviously, in this game. Later on, the G2 botches a dive with Mickey, and even he goes down. And yeah, it's more disaster for G2. I'm watching this, and I'm going, what the actual fuck, man? You know G2 are better than this. You know they can play better. The botching dives, they've ran these dives thousands of times. Nope, doesn't matter. Mad Lions outplays them. Later on during the game, Mad Lions' composition is definitely getting a lot more scarier. They get another kill around 7 minutes in. Then later on, they get another kill, which is onto their Ezreal, who is definitely getting pretty big, all things considered. They later on take a turn around 15 minutes in. And then after that, it's basically just all Mad Lions from this point. They do pretty much almost lose a 1v3 to Humanoid, but later on, it's an Elise. She lands one cocoon, and then you're most likely dead if you're playing an 80 carry-esque level champion. Then, later on, G2 tried to obviously push for turrets, but their composition, at this point, I don't really think can function, because you have Elise, who doesn't really do much if her team is not really that far ahead. Aatrox is super far behind at this point. You have Caps on Aphelios, one of the few AD carries he actually did play this game, because in Game 5, you guys know he played Ziggs. But yeah, I don't think he looked that bad this game. I think people are criticizing so much, but if you really watch, he's not playing amazing, but he's playing relatively okay, where he's not like feeding consistently. I think that's a fair assessment to make. But later on, Mad Lions obviously get another kill because they choose to actually invade inside of G2's jungle. They are taking the Mountain Dragon. They really can't deal with the poke from Ezreal, from the Nico, and from the composition that they actually have. So around, let's say, a point where before they take the dragon, they actually kill Caps, and then Caps is dead, and then that obviously gives them free reign to obviously do a lot better when it comes to the next dragon fight. Later on in this game, it's G2 do kind of surmount a decent comeback. They even almost ace Mad Lions. They get a 4 for 2. So you're thinking like, okay, G2, they're still in it. And during this series, I'm thinking to myself, okay, they're still making good plays. They're still not playing that bad. But it's just a Humanoid is really strong on the Lucian. He basically solos out Caps. Caps gets killed by the Ezreal. True Shot, not True Shot, but what's the thing he does? The Mystic Shot, right? Yeah, Mystic Shot. Then Perks, it has a great series still so far. He gets the double kill, and then later on, Wonder is actually starting to pop off. Then Shadow has been completely outplaying Jankos this entire time. And then later on, Caps dies close to Dragon. Then Karzi Arcane ships over. Then they kill Jankos. Now it's a 3 for 0 for Mad Lions. Perks tried to split push. It didn't matter, obviously. This game is all Mad Lions. Mad Lions is 2-1 over G2. They win this next game. They obviously take down the reigning champions. But people need to understand this is double elimination. People kept saying constantly this week, is G2 out? Is G2 out? No. Are you actually stupid? Do you not hear people when they talk? Do you not read? It clearly states they have stated since week 1. They have a loser's bracket. So stop being ignorant. You know they have a loser's bracket. Stop asking stupid questions. You guys know this stuff. Now, going into the game, in game... What's this game? Game 4. Yes. Mad Lions, hey, they should have won this game. I'm not even lying to you right now. Mad Lions should have won this game. G2 take Origen, Lee Sin, Cassiopeia, Ezreal, and Yuumi. Mad Lions take Set, Elise, Renekton mid, Kai'Sa, and Leona. We have not really seen Kai'Sa in a very long time. I honestly thought them picking that Kai'Sa pick really screwed them over with Yuumi, because Yuumi and Ezreal is really good at poking, and Kai'Sa is really not that good early on. Now, looking at this game, so far, you have to factor in that, you know, G2's composition works better mid-game. Mad Lions' composition works better early game. Now, going into this, you're thinking like to yourself, okay, I think it's something that G2 can actually play out. But overall, I wasn't getting this like sentiment that, you know, they were just that far ahead of the opposition so far. At some point during the laning phase, Mickey gets executed by a turret. You're like, what is this sloppy play from G2? They are definitely tilted. Like, they're definitely tilted. There's no way you can't tell me they're tilted, man. They literally played like they were drunk in this game. Luckily, Perks was on Cassiopeia, or this game could have ended in a 3-1 fashion for G2. You know what I mean? Jankos ends up dying when he tries to gank. Then it's a kill for Shadow, who had been having an amazing series so far. Obviously, getting Cassiopeia to go up against Renekton, if whoever drafted that pick was great, because that really stabilized the mid lane. Later on, G2 get dove. It's a double kill for the Elise. And then later on, Kaiser has to suicide because he doesn't want to give the kill to Lee Sin, because giving the kill to Lee Sin is much more effective at impacting the map than giving it to a Yuumi. But, I mean, it really means all the same, personally. Then later on, Mickey gets executed 6 minutes in. Yes, and executed. And then Jankos dies to top lane. It's all bad for G2. But there is this fight in the mid lane where Perks actually starts popping off. And then later on, G2, who are losing this game, literally losing 5,000 gold down. G2, you know that's what they do. They definitely can make a comeback. And that's what they actually did. They have a team fight where Perks gets 3 kills, and then later on they actually start crawling back the deficit. And it's not too bad. You can clearly see they're still trying to win. Later on, they ace Mad Lions at Baron. It's a 4 for 1. G2 absolutely destroyed them in the Baron pit. They get a dragon. They're actually crawling back the deficit. It's still a 2,000 gold lead at that point for Mad Lions, actually. But then later on, G2 do what they do best. They win a team fight. They start getting their advantages. Perks is on Cassiopeia, having a great game to get his team. The captain, the leader of G2, hashtag G2 Army, baby, let's go. And then now you're in game 4. They really crawled it back here. And now 5 games. the series that everybody said was going to be easy is now in 5 games. Now, most of everybody knows how this game 5 goes. Now, rather than going through like play-by-play, I can just give you my honest opinions on it. Okay, so let's just fast forward all the way to the point where Caps ints the Nexus, right? So, I personally think they should have won this game. Now, it's not me just being a biased fan. They literally have a point here where they can just win the game. So, at a certain point during it, if they just hit the Nexus, they're going to win. Now, Mickey used a magical journey, which is the Eon Bard, right? And then he throws a stun. I think that you don't even need to do any of that. If they just stun Carzzy and then just obviously almost killed him, he was going to back away because he knew he was going to die. If they just kept hitting the Nexus from the points they were at, they were going to win. There was no point in throwing his Ziggs W to blow himself up, to not hit the Nexus twice, and I think Mickey also made mistakes here too. He is kind of focused on saving Caps rather than just hitting the Nexus. If he had just focused his last 3 hits on the Nexus, they could have won. They only needed 4 hits. 4 hits. Imagine if Mickey just focuses on the Nexus instead of focusing on Caps. Mad Lions even focus Caps, so he could have got 3 more extra autos in, and then Caps gets hit 1 extra auto. They end the game. It literally was almost 5 autos away from being won. Now, Shadow is huge on the Olaf, and then G2 with their composition, which is Kalista, Jarvan, Rumble, Ziggs, Bard. Mad Lions is Maokai, Olaf, what's her name? Kiana, Syndra, and Set. Both compositions are fine, but Mad Lions don't even have an 80 carry, and G2 are scared to take a 5v5. This was all Mad Lions in this series. Yes, G2 had good moments here, but Shadow's Olaf is too scary. They're getting absolutely destroyed. This was a clearly great upset. As a G2 fan, it does suck that they won it. They know that they could have won this series. But yes, Mad Lions win, and they upset G2. So yes, Mad Lions is going into the winner's bracket, and they will eventually face Fnatic. And we'll talk about Fnatic right now. Fnatic are facing Origins. Now, there's not really much to say about this series, but I have my fair opinions. This was supposed to be the series that was supposed to be super close, because going into the series, Fnatic and Origen have similar players, but the teams play stylistically very differently. Looking at all their lane by lanes, most of it's pretty even, but this series would lead you to believe differently. I think Selfmade being that much better than Xerxes really does show in this series, and I also think that what they showed in this series is that Fnatic is the best team in the LEC as of right now. They clearly showed that they were the most dominant in their series against Origen, and Origen is also a top 3 team, so that's also credit to them as well. The Fnatic composition in game 1 is these top laners names: Zac, Gragas, Yasuo, Senna. We have not seen Senna in quite some time since her nerfs, at least in the 80 carry role, and Hillsing is playing Zillion support. Have not seen that in a while. Then you have Origen with the Gangplank, Trundle, Orin, Ezreal, and Yumi, taking a page out of G2's book, and hopefully they'll play it better, right? So later on during the game, Whipple's comfortable playing the Zac, neutralizing Alphari. I feel like Origin's mid and top laners tend to get a little overrated. Like, they're given so many resources, yet they don't really ever do anything with them. It's really weird how they have decent star level players, yet they consistently get resources and don't do anything with it. It's a bot lane dive at 8 minutes in, where they kill Nuke Duck, and then Nemesis looks like he's gonna die, and then, yeah, he definitely does not die at all. Surprisingly, what's his name? Xerxes actually lives. Weirdly, they actually live. And Nuke Duck definitely does die, and if you're tanking and you're behind that early, it's definitely not going to bode well, especially when you're playing Yasuo. Yasuo can just win wall the little stump that Orin throws up. I mean, this series in general was all Fnatic, man. Fnatic really played well. They dive Alphari again. He's dead. Gangplank is behind, and their mid laner's behind. It's not going well for Origen. This was the most one-sided stomp in the playoffs so far in the LEC, and it's clear to show that Fnatic right now are the second best team. Oh no, sorry, let me correct you. First, they are the best team right now in the LEC. After they played Origen, that's definitely what I thought. Their composition that they played and how they played effectively against a top 3 team like Origen, and just make them look like trash. It was I'm pretty sure 11,000 gold lead for Fnatic going into game 2. Now, going into the next game, which is game 2, it's more or less still the same. You know, Origen draft Gangplank, Olaf, Rumble, because you want to have a carry in Nuke Duck if you're going to give him resources. In the Yuumi, Ezreal bot lane. Fnatic draft the Origen, Lee Sin, Diana, Reckless, and Hylissang still on that patented Senna Zillion bot lane. I really like that bot lane, though. They played it really good, and they showed. Fnatic are finally showing they can be flexible. They can play these other champions, which is really good. Not just G2 are flexible. I like this. I like teams showing that they can play other things, and they can actually do different things, you know, instead of just being, I'm a standard team. I want to do standard things. Like, the fuck? Like, if standard is making you lose, why are you still being standard? Now, I understand you have to obviously play through your players' strengths and stuff like that, but you know, I'm glad these teams are willing to try out different stuff and see what they can be good at, rather than just saying, oh, I'm not good at this, so I'm not going to try it. Like, no, you should definitely try it and see if it actually works. You know, later on in this game, too, it really wasn't that much different for Origen. Like, let's be honest here, it really wasn't that much different. Bwipo was out playing 1v2 ganks. I think he's been the MVP of the split for Fnatic. I think what he's been doing for Fnatic has been absolutely incredible. Now, later on in the bot lane, they almost have a close team fight, but then later on, Fnatic's composition really does work best. Nemesis ends up getting 2 kills, and you know, Diana, when she's fed, definitely can win the game. Upset tries to get a trade kill back, he does, and he ends up getting ace 5 for 1 in favor of Fnatic. Fnatic is absolutely dominating this series. There's really not much to say about this game. They ran an absolute clinic on Origen. It was basically like watching Cloud9 versus 100 Thieves. Like, you'd think a top 3 team could match the second team at some things, but no, Fnatic definitely showed why they are the best team after this week, and next week they get to prove that versus Mad Lions. The series did go to Game 4. Game 3 was won by Origen. In Game 3, Origen actually play Maokai, because Alphari's been not looking so good on carry top laners. Then you have Xerxes on Gragas. I think that's fine for them. You have Kiana, Aphelios, Thresh. Fnatic is on Gangplank, Olaf, Azir, Senna, and Trundle. Actually, the Trundle for Hylissang was a super hardcore nuisance for Origen. They actually lost inhibitors to this. It looked like Hylissang was kind of running it down, but obviously he was not doing that. He was definitely trying to play the best he can, but this is the best game Origen played. They played rather standard. I don't know how it looked this close when it was 6-24 in kills and they had a 6,000 gold lead. That already shows you that Origen's not going to win the second game. After watching this, I was like, Fnatic still could have won this game. There's really not much difference between what Origen is doing. I want to give them credit for winning the game, but I don't know. They made it look a lot more harder than it had to be, and I don't know if there's like mental blocks, or maybe Origen is just a better stage team. Maybe that could be the case, though. It maybe online, they're not really that strong. You know, some teams do benefit from stage play, some benefit from online play, but Origen do win this Game 3 after Hylissang made them definitely work for it. Game 4, Fnatic. Alright, so at this point, I'm thinking to myself, okay, it's not that bad for Fnatic. If they could just play the way they're playing at like games 1 and 2, they're going to win the series. I mean, let's be honest here. Origen gave nobody any hope they were even going to win. Fnatic play and draft Aatrox, Gragas, Nemesis, taking a page out of Perks' book, getting that Cassiopeia, Reckless, 4th Senna game, adding that utility and that consistent damage for his team, and then he has Hylissang on the Tahm Kench. They do gank Bwipo early on in Game 4, giving Origen that first kill. Actually, this early game was the best out of Origen. They made the early game look pretty sizably different. It was literally 4-0 in kills. It was a 3,000 gold lead for Origen. This is their best early game they have shown. And they realize they have to play fast. They cannot play slow scaling. They are playing like Team Liquid did last year. I mean, that style is so outdated and does not work. That can only work for teams that are Korean, that know how to really pace the game to a point where it could really work for them. I don't think a team like Origen needs to be playing this slow pace scaling style. Like, that is just not good enough. You know what I mean? Like, people keep saying they're only doing it for certain reasons. No, you're doing it because you're going to lose if you play fast, but why don't you perfect playing faster? This series showed playing slow will cause you to be already 2-0 down in a series. I mean, they're literally playing like TL last year. Not like in terms of how they assign their, you know, what's the word people use and give it? It's the freaking word. I can't get the word right now. The word is, role balancing. Is that what? Yeah, the role balance is weird, but you can kind of tell how they're playing like TL from last year because it sets the fact that they're not really doing much. They're just waiting to a certain point. But this game, they played kind of fast. I mean, they were winning at a certain point, and this is where you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, they can at least bring this to a game 5 because people said this was supposed to be the closer series, but at some point, Fnatic actually start winning. To a point where they win a team fight, and then Fnatic are actually in the driver's seat. I'm thinking to myself, holy crap, Upset gets caught out on the Aphelios, and that lets Fnatic kill him, and then later on, Fnatic get the Baron, and then after that, it's all Fnatic, and they are moving on to face Mad Lions. And then the last series of the first part of the playoff weekend for the LEC is Rogue versus Misfits. Rogue played extremely well, obviously in this series, and I honestly think that I predicted Misfits to win 3-1, but then Rogue ended up winning 3-1, so at least I got the number correct, right, guys? Misfits win game 1, pretty much playing how I expected them to play. You had Aatrox, Sejuani, Zoe, Kalista, and Taric. You had Rogue playing Renekton, Talia, what's her name? Fucking hell, Tristana mid. Larson's played that before. And then you have the Draven for Hansama. He likes that champion. And you have Vander on Thresh. Nothing too crazy in this game. Misfits just pretty much play like they normally do. And I even said that Misfits, when they had Hansama, you could clearly tell Hansama was only really truly good at like 2 champions. Because when he plays Draven, he plays like a completely different player. His record on it is 8-3 on the Draven. Like that's literally his pocket pick and his best champion for certain compositions. They dive, well, they attempt to dive Rogue, and they, oh god, they botch the dive and give over 2 kills. Rogue, what are you doing? They dive Misfits and botch the fucking dive. What the hell is that? Later on, Misfits start to destroy Rogue. I mean, it's not even close. Zoe's popping off. Fucking Aatrox is popping off. And you know, when Misfits have their carries playing really insanely well, it's all textbooks for them. And then they actually win the first game of the series, like I actually predict. And then later on, during the series, it's all Rogue. Misfits do everything wrong from how they won. How they won in the first game was through calculated early game aggression into great skirmishes. Rogue won these last few games better drafting. In game 2, it was Renekton, Sejuani, Azir, Aphelios, Tahm Kench. Misfits had Origen, Lee Sin, Corki, and the Lovers bot lane with Xayah and Rakan. Nothing was that much different in this game, other than the fact that it was pretty close early on. Around 21 minutes in, it was like around a 6,000 goldie for Rogue, but it wasn't that bad, right? Later on, Rogue won a team fight around the Dragon Pit, and then later on, it very well translates into their lead, 13-6, 8,000 goldie. Rogue get that game 2 win, and then later on, it's game 3, where Misfits draft Aatrox, Trundle, Corki, Aphelios, Tahm Kench. Rogue draft Kled, Pantheon, Azir, Draven, and let me get that other champion because it actually clicked away from me. And actually, Vander takes set support. So in this game, I think the utility that the Kled brought to Rogue's composition and how he played specifically this game with Inspired worked really well. And I think Misfits got tilted after that game. 2 loss when they thought they probably should have won the game 2 at some point during the game. Rogue is clapping Misfits' asshole. They are putting a large amount of grease on their fist, and they are pounding their motherfucking asshole out. I mean, holy moly, Rogue is destroying them. The Kled is super big. The Azir is super big. The Draven is 4-1. The Draven is 4-1. Definitely Hansama getting revenge on his former organization, and now it is time for game 4. Can Misfits bring it back? Can Hansama fully get his revenge on his old organization? You had Misfits playing, what's his name? Set, Sejuani, Rebel, Aphelios starts bot lane. Rogue plays Aatrox, Gragas, Orin, Misfortune, and Nautilus. Misfits get 3 kills early on. You're like, okay, Misfits, you're not dead to rights yet. Later on, they get a dragon. It's not looking too bad for them. Rogue get a kill back in the top lane. And then, okay, it's like a decent game for Misfits. But then later on, I think it's another kill. Then Rogue is starting to move around the map. They realize they can't just sit in lane because Misfits' composition will just outscale them and out-teamfight them because Rumble and Aphelios and Set are better to teamfight with, also with Sejuani, than the composition that Rogue has, actually. And then later on, Rogue start winning more teamfights. Their carries are getting a little bit bigger, and you have the Hansama, who is definitely popping off in the series. Had a great series overall on his driven picks. Definitely got his team some pretty good wins. Larson is zoning away B-Void, and they kill him. Inspire gets a kill, and then Hansama starts popping off on the Misfortune. Free firing, hitting everything. It is over, and Misfits lose to their former AD carry. Misfits season is OVER over. And now, the next week's matchups for the LEC playoffs is Origen versus Rogue and Fnatic versus Mad Lions, and the loser of one of those matches will face G2, while you're moving on to the winners finals later on. So Fnatic win this one, I'm pretty sure they're up inside of the winners. They're in the finals, right? Yeah. So hopefully these next two series between Origen and Rogue and Fnatic versus Mad Lions will actually be pretty good, and I think that we'll overall see better play from these teams now that they kind of fielded out who's going to be a lot stronger. And I do see a world in which where Fnatic beats Mad Lions and gets to the finals, and hopefully whoever G2 faces, they can eventually beat them and get to the finals and face Fnatic in that all best of 5 series that everyone wants to get a rematch for last year, Fnatic versus G2. But after G2 played badly this week, it's like, okay, they need a lot to work on, and hopefully they can actually do that. So I'll see you guys later. Like, comment, subscribe, most of all, enjoy. I'm the Nightwing and Way of Life Esports, signing out.
Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more stuff.
Yeah, thank you.